My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Feyre accompanies Rhysand and Amren to the summer court, where they play the part of well-meaning allies in front of Tarquin and his retinue. Both Rhysand and Feyre find they like the earnest Tarquin, but their mission is more important than preserving a relationship with the young High Lord. In this new environment, Feyre explores her feelings of unhappiness and loneliness, as well as her emerging powers in her quest for the Fey half of the Book of Breathings.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, self-harm, and depression will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This season, we're exploring Sarah J. Maas's most beloved novel in the Court of Thorns and Roses series.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
This week we're discussing chapters 32 through 37 in A Court of Mist and Fury.
The question we're asking ourselves this week is, what character development does Feyre experience at the summer court, and is it transformative?
Some themes we're going to see this week being weaponized as well as ownership.
We begin the summer court arc of Mist and Fury in chapter 32. The chapter opens with Rhys, Feyre, and Amren still in Velaris.
The very first line says, quote, Cassian having failed to sway his High Lord. This sets off a tone that we haven't seen before in the Night Court. Rhys is and always has been the High Lord, and Cassian has to respect his authority. As the book and the series progress, we see that Rhys has to pull rank, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. There's really a lot of clues of Rhys being the High Lord. I know that later on in Silver Flames, a lot of people on TikTok kind of harp on Rhys that, he comes out of nowhere and being super bossy and in charge and all that stuff, but he's the High Lord. He's always been in charge.
Just because we're getting this from Feyre's perspective doesn't mean that it's not happening. We have to be cognizant of the fact that she can't see everything. And so, of course, Rhys is going to be High Lord. He just chooses to not act like a High Lord in front of her all the time.
Well, and then to that effect, we're not analyzing Silver Flames, but Nesta doesn't like Rhys, so of course she's going to see all the times that he is High Lord.
Of course. At the start of this chapter, Feyre cannot resist comparing herself to a pet again. But I think there's been a little bit of a shift. Quote, as Rhys's newest pet, I would be granted tours of the city and the High Lord's personal residence. If we were lucky, none of them would realize that Rhys's lapdog was actually a bloodhound. If Feyre must own being an animal or someone's pet, at least she's going to be dangerous. To me, this should clue the reader into Feyre's transitioning mindset. She's not resentful or demure here. She has a purpose, one she has been trained for and intends to fulfill.
The idea of her being, I'm a dangerous animal, I'm a bloodhound, those things are adorable. extremely friendly. They're also known as being family-friendly animals.
I was going to say, are you talking about my dog?
Rowan is adjacent.
He's a hound.
He's a hound. And it's just kind of funny to me where she's like, I'm not a lapdog, I'm a bloodhound, as in another extremely adorable variation.
Right. Extremely loyal.
Yeah.
Likes to wag its tail.
Yeah, friendly. There's other things. There's other predators that she could have listed.
100% she could have. Feyre follows this with the thought that, quote, and it was a very, very good disguise. Note that shortly after this, Feyre describes Rhys's outfit, observing that he appears as the, quote, cool, cultured male I'd first met, his favorite mask. This is SJM signaling to us that not only is Rhys back at playing his part, but Feyre is learning to follow his lead and act out her role in this charade as well. Feyre is going to learn to enjoy the game that they play, and the tone here suggests that maybe she already does.
Does she enjoy playing the role? I think she does until she doesn't.
I think she gets in her head sometimes, right?
Yes.
I think she's learning to enjoy it because, as we're going to see later, when Rhys is mad at her, she's like, come on, play with me.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She likes to play a role or a part.
She's learning how to play a role, and she does like it. It's just funny where she likes it until she doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. She's eventually, by the end of the book, when she infiltrates the Spring Court, she loves her role.
Yes. Yeah. She's like,
oh, Tamlin, I love you. Oh, I'm going to kill you all.
Yeah. Yeah. She's totally owning it by then. But yeah, she's a little in her head as we're going to see this episode.
They're baby steps. Feyre has chosen her mask, a bloodhound pretending to be a lapdog. But it's interesting that Feyre chose this as her mask. She didn't have to be any animal, and she didn't have to be a dog. In fact, remember, just a few chapters ago at the Weavers, she was a wolf. I get what Feyre's doing here. Bloodhounds are useful and are able to hunt for things, but why is it that when given an opportunity to choose a mask, she still chooses an animal? While Rhys wears his favorite mask, head-to-toe black, Amren is dressed in the way that Feyre originally admired, loose pants and a crop top. Feyre finally gets to choose her own clothes, which will be used as her own mask/armor. Remember, at the start of this book, Feyre regarded dresses to be as a type of uniform, and now she gets to choose this uniform. Even then, the dress still represents Rhys. We already know that Feyre describes Rhys's eyes as sometimes being violet, and here her dress is lilac, a few shades lighter than violet. Now, okay, sure, people might be like, hey Jack, you're reaching, to which I say, hold on folks, there's more. Rhys is described as head-to-toe black accented with silver threads, while Feyre's dress has silver floral embroidering. They're matching together, they're tied together. You can say rather than invisible strings tying you to me, they're silver strings. Another variation of a Taylor Swift song if you want. Taylor, you can take that.
I would also like to point out that not only is it silver flowers embroidered on her dress, but night blooming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you know it's night blooming, Feyre?
Right?
How do you know?
Is that like a particular type of flower? I'm sure, but she's just like, they're night blooming flowers with violet eyes, and it starts and they have wings too, and talons for toes.
Ew.
The flowers have talons.
Yeah. One thing I will say, the other thing I thought of with lilac is Amarantha. She wears a lilac and orchid dress under the mountain during the first trial.
Yeah, she does.
So, just a side note.
There's a part I want to discuss before we enter the summer court. Before Rhys and Feyre and Amren all leave, Rhys is in a bad mood and claims that he stayed out late with Cassian and Azriel and that they took him for all that he's worth in cards. When Feyre asks if Rhys is a sore loser, he says, when my brothers tag team me. Not the only one who wants to be tag teamed by Cassian and Az. That's Nesta. Nesta. I feel like there's got to be more here. It feels like there's a secret chapter that SJM hasn't given us. My personal feeling is I think this is when Cassian and Azriel confront Rhys on his feelings for Feyre.
I agree with you. When I saw your question about this, I wondered whether Cassian and Azriel potentially confronted Rhys about a potential mating bond, because they're not quite looped in on that.
Before mating bond, I'm wondering if they even asked him, hey, do you like her?
To some extent, I wonder if they are also worried for Feyre, right? Like, of course, they're loyal to their High Lord.
But is it a passing fancy for him?
Right, exactly. And they like Feyre enough to be like, hey, dude, maybe you need to reconsider this.
You know what? Especially since just like a day before, because the day before was, Rhys was like, all right, everyone get ready. We're going to the summer court. And then just a few days before that, so all within the same week, Feyre had her breakdown with Cassian.
Mm-hmm.
So of course Cassian would probably feel a lot more brotherly towards Feyre and would be wanting to say, hey man, is this casual because I see you flirting with her a lot, but
Don't mess it up.
What's going on? I wonder if Rhys admitted it to them at that point.
Well, they don't know about the mating bond, but maybe he does say...
Well, do they not know until the very end when they become mated? I think they know beforehand.
Is it Mor that tells Feyre that they suspect, or is it Rhys that tells her?
Oh, so they still don't know. They
don't know for sure.
It's almost as if we should read the book.
Almost. But it could also just be that Rhys tells them, yes, I have feelings for her. Back off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, and it's probably like, man, you broke laws. You can't have feelings for... Yeah, there's a whole thing. I want to know that. There's a 100% a secret chapter or secret scene.
Right. It might have been in there and then cut.
I don't think so.
That's right.
SJM hasn't done any multiple POVs yet.
That's true. Not till the end of the book.
If one day she forgives us for this podcast and we become friends, we'll
grill her.
Yeah.
There's an interesting exchange between Feyre, Tarquin, and Rhys when the group first appears in the palace at Adriata. When Tarquin looks at Feyre's chest, likely drawn there by his drop of power that he handed over to her in the remaking and not because he's skeevy, Rhys comments, quote, "Her breasts are rather spectacular, aren't they? Delicious as ripe apples." If food is power, and Feyre, or her breasts, are now food, Rhys is exerting his claim over her in front of Tarquin. It's kind of Rhys's version of marking his territory, or at least the role he's in at the moment.
Another way of looking at this, if food is power and Feyre's breasts are now apples, then they have power. Her boobs have power, obviously.
Boobs are so powerful.
Boobs are super powerful, any shape or size. Another way of looking at this is if her breasts are apples and apples are the forbidden fruit, then Feyre is forbidden. After all, we already have a John Milton Paradise Lost reference earlier in the book.
And as we talked about last week, Feyre is always the temptation for High Lords, so it's natural that she would embody a forbidden fruit.
Do you think her boobs are actually the size of apples, or he was just saying crisp and sweet as apples?
I imagine her boobs are a little bit bigger.
I imagine they're bigger than that. For me, if someone was like, they're just like apples, I'd be like, okay, sure.
Right.
Melons, buddy.
He's talking about the deliciousness of them, so
There's other delicious fruit.
I don't think she's as big as cantaloupes.
I'm just laughing where if someone ever compares my boobs to fruit, my official request is jackfruit.
Oh my gosh.
Aren't Jack's breasts delicious? Like jackfruit. What?
Oh my gosh. We're stupid.
I mean, I felt like I was brilliant just there.
You were very brilliant.
You're stupid for laughing at it.
Yeah, I'm the one. I caved.
But what if one of our listeners laughed? Now you just called them stupid.
I'm sorry. I have no excuse.
Back to my joke was brilliant.
Your joke was brilliant.
We finally get to see different courts, and in the summer court, as Feyre and the group are walking, Feyre notes, "No lesser fairies crossed our path, not once." And this is an immediate red flag for Feyre. Tamlin at least had lesser fae working at his manor. I can't tell if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Does Tarquin not have lesser fae there because the lesser fae aren't worthy of working for him? Or that's what he's working towards and trying to make it so that they're more even because that's what Tarquin wants? Or is that his way of proving a point to higher fae that they're still his little bitch?
I have always assumed it was because it was maybe tradition in the summer court to keep lesser fae out of the palace.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing what we know of Tarquin and how he's trying for equality, I could see what you're saying, where it could be his way of being lesser fae shouldn't have to serve me.
Yeah.
We're all equal. But it does also come across as elitist. I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about it either. But it is a warning flag for Feyre. And again, I want to be at least Tamlin had lesser fae there. Again, it doesn't make anything feel good. Just stop calling them lesser fae. I also want to call out what Tarquin calls Amren. Quote, "Welcome back to the city, lady." Originally, at the start of this book, Feyre hated the idea of being called lady because it was a made-up name for her, who was a being that was created. Now we have another being who was created, Amren, and she's given the same title, but Amren is showing Feyre how to use it. In this moment, Amren eyes Tarquin and tells him that he's far more handsome than his dead cousin. This is the lady energy that Feyre needs to channel, which she eventually does, and she picks up the tricks by watching Amren.
I think we actually see it as early as this lunch scene that we're going to discuss soon, when she cracks the joke at the end.
Yeah.
So I applaud Feyre for adapting so quickly.
Yeah, and I applaud Amren for being Amren.
I love Amren.
I do too.
Last week, we discussed how Feyre has reached a turning point in her journey. That is demonstrated here in her first meeting with Tarquin and Cressida. When Cressida tells Feyre it is an honor to meet her, Feyre's body responds, her, quote, breakfast turning to lead in her gut. Remember, Feyre could not stand being thanked for what she did under the mountain earlier in the novel. Yet here we see Feyre fight her instincts and, quote, didn't let Cressida see what the groveling did to me. Let her realize it was ammunition. Though Feyre may not be completely healed, she is also not the same woman she was in the spring court.
I've got a question here. Was Cressida actually groveling, or was she just thanking Feyre? Originally, I read Cressida's thank you as more of a sarcastic thank you, but let's say, hypothetically, she said it in all earnestness. It's still not groveling. She just says thank you one time. I feel like Feyre can't take a thank you.
Yes, she can't.
But she's just so dramatic.
She is a little dramatic.
I can't handle the groveling. It's all she said was thank you for passing the green beans. That's not what she said.
I was like, what?
I don't know. I was just like...
She does say thank you and it's an honor. And I think it might be the honor thing that
I read it as so sarcastic originally.
I do too. I don't know that Cressida is being sincere here. And maybe that's why it doesn't irk Feyre as much as it did when the Lesser Fae at the tithe kept thanking her.
Well, I mean, she's in a different mental and emotional place. But also the fact that it still bothers Feyre... I mean, one, obviously it's triggering, like she still has issues, hasn't moved past it, but it's also like this is hurting her skill of being a spy person, right. Of being a courtier. She's letting a very simple thank you mess with her mind.
Yes, she is. I think what SJM is trying to do here, though, is set up for the transition that's going to take place later in this section of chapters.
Yeah, because there's a lot of transitioning.
Despite her growth, however, Feyre cannot help but have intrusive thoughts about Tamlin that attempt to self-sabotage. When Feyre realizes Calanmai will be soon after an Insar, she wonders whether Tamlin will have to participate in the Great Rite. This is the start of a series of intrusive thoughts about Tamlin that will grow stronger the more attracted Feyre becomes to Rhysand, and will only go away when the mating bond is realized.
But still, I get that, where it's like she's moved past Tamlin, but the idea of him sleeping with someone else is so...
irksome.
Yeah, just painful.
Mm-hmm.
Question, do we think that he actually slept with someone else? I honestly believe it can go two ways.
I can see it both sides. I think in my gut, or in my headcanon, he does it because he's so committed to the thing he hates, which is his role as High Lord.
I'm just playing the other side of it, just because I agree that it could probably be it. Plus, Ianthe's probably like their I think another way of looking at it is he didn't sleep with anyone, and that's what drives him a little bit crazier, because he wasn't able to participate in the rite. He wasn't able to get his magic out there for the lands to grow, and it just kind of pent up, and that made him lose it more.
Right, because Rhys says later that when they don't use their magic, it kind of drives them crazy.
Yeah, so that's my theory, is that, because he kind of gets, he definitely gets unhinged, so I think that might have added to the unhinginess.
I think that's my new headcanon. Right? I like that.
I think so. Thank you.
There is a moment here where Feyre's senses are ignited by the sight of the vibrant ocean, and she considers how to paint it. Even though she's acting a part, Feyre is still Feyre, in case you were wondering. The lunch scene, when everyone is eating crabs, is, I think, one of the best food is power scenes in this novel. As Cressida threatens Feyre, claiming the summer court would have to listen to Tamlin if he demanded their help stealing Feyre back, Cressida sips her wine and cracks open a crab claw.
In this scene, Cressida informs Feyre about the law that I guess she's technically breaking. The law being that Feyre belongs to Tamlin because she was going to be his bride. Even though they were just engaged and never got married, the law requires that they return Feyre back to him. She's basically his property. Again, before they're married. None of it's great. Belonging to someone's not great. But just the engagement aspect, that's very frustrating. So I think it's fair to say that Tamlin probably knew about this law, which is probably an important thing for Feyre to know, since you're basically married to the person without even being married. If an engagement means being owned, then what does being married even mean? Why is it that no one, not Lucien, not anyone from the Night Court, tell Feyre what being engaged means?
I don't know why, to be completely frank. At first, I thought, well, maybe they assume that this is the way it is in the human realms, but they wouldn't be explaining it if they made that assumption. So I wondered, human love develops so much more quickly than Fey love, according to Tamlin in Thorns and Roses. So if love is developed slowly, and if High Lords are even capable of marrying for love, is an engagement just been so long coming that it's automatically ownership? I don't know. Or is it like how women were treated in medieval times or in the Victorian era, where women come with dowries and they're basically being bought or sold off?
It's a hell of a commitment. And again, I understand that being owned by anyone is not the goal or great in any means, but let's say Feyre is going to consent. Yes, you can own me eventually once we're married. I feel like that's the thing you should know, that actually starts an engagement. I can understand why Rhys and the court may not tell her because they probably don't want to freak her out. But Lucien, someone should explain to Feyre, hey, by agreeing and saying yes, you can't leave me now, legally.
Yeah, maybe they thought it was a non-issue.
I never thought you would leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
That would be the assumption, right? When people get engaged, you assume, oh, they're going to get married.
Yeah.
You don't assume they're going to break the engagement off.
Or that there's even laws saying that if you leave, you still belong to me, you have to come back.
Right.
I guess that's why later on when we find out about, or not later on, whenever we find out about Mor and Eris, him returning her, and again, not returning her, but like, dumping her in the woods, that's a really big deal because he owned her at that point.
I mean, what we really should be doing is equating these engagements to betrothals.
That's the same thing.
I feel like it has that extra connotation of ownership and permanency that an engagement doesn't. Like if you think about like royals and a betrothal.
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
When Rhys returns Cressida's threats with a promise of violence, he cracks open the crab claws on his plate with invisible hands or magic, showing up Cressida's one little claw that she broke with her own hands. Feyre quiets all of them simply by raising her glass and cracking a joke. Subtle, but I think this food is power scene is quite delightful. And the next time I want to threaten someone, I'll remember to break open into a packet of saltines or something.
I never got that joke. Why? Why saltines?
I couldn't think of something that I could crack easily.
Oh.
It's not like I have crab claws at my desk at work, but I have a packet of saltines.
I get it now. It was funny. I'm sorry.
Sorry. We can cut the lame joke.
No. I was like, you said it earlier. I'm like, wait, I still don't get it. I didn't mean to shame you.
It's okay.
Say it again.
No. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, you should just keep in my explaining it.
No, I agree. We're keeping all of this in.
Oh, great.
Which makes me feel bad for my next comment. Just that I feel this moment very much. Like
You mean the Feyre's cracking a joke?
Yeah, I've broken many awkward moments with an even more awkward joke.
Lovely. Now a word from this episode's sponsor. At BookTok for BookTok, we love to support women, and we're thrilled to sponsor with Celebrate Me Registry, a Black female-owned business.
Celebrate Me is the first totally customizable registry service that lets you add gifts from across the internet for any occasion.
Created by a woman for women who deserve to be celebrated. Which, by the way, is all of us.
Me. It's me. I deserve to be celebrated. Because why do I have to wait to get married or have a baby, both of which are not happening anytime soon, just to get the gifts that I want?
We're out here celebrating birthdays, holidays, and anniversaries without giving anyone guidance.
You can give people guidance. Just visit celebratemeregistry.com today to create your totally free registry for any occasion or just because. Personally, I lean towards the just because reason.
That's celebratemeregistry.com. Chapter 33 starts in the collection of rooms reserved for the night court visitors to the summer court. Rhys invades Feyre's room to confront her.
Rhys doesn't give Feyre a proper greeting. He just walks right into her room right as Feyre realizes that all her clothes that are packed from the night court are not clothes that she packed. Instead, Rhys picked them for her. They are her uniform, something she finds comfort in, and Rhys has taken that step away from her so that she can wear what he deems appropriate. So, if Feyre wears something sexy to be used as a weapon, then that's Rhys doing, and he cannot get pissy about it.
Kind of to dovetail off of that thought, if Feyre's a weapon, then he is her wielder, and he's controlling and owning her. So yeah, just to double down, he can't get pissy. He's the one who put her in those clothes.
Right? Like, oh my god, I can't believe Tarquin's looking at her like that. Well, like her boobs are on display, you did that.
Yeah, that's your fault, dude.
Yeah.
Here we begin to see a parallel being drawn between the Weaver's cottage and the summer court. In anticipation of the test to find a prized object using her latent power, Rhys antagonizes Feyre by goading her. In both instances, there is sexual tension between the two of them. But just like the effort to find the Book of Breathings is more demanding than finding Rhys's mother's ring, the sexual tension here is amped way up. On one hand, Rhys isn't lying here, as is his way. Quote, having a High Lord lusting after you is a dangerous game. But as with all his truths, it's veiled.
This feels so much more self-focused. I don't think Feyre realizes just how much Rhys is talking about himself. There are these moments of lust rather than moments of real emotion, since that's what Rhys finds to be comfortable. Rhys uses lust as a weapon rather than emotion as a tool to heal and comfort.
I can't wait to talk about why.
I know.
But I'll save that for a moment and talk about something else.
Yeah.
Feyre, in response to this, does what she usually does, which is lashing out. She asks Rhys, quote, if I fucked him for it, would you do it? Oh, no, sorry.
And if I fucked him, would you fuck him too? Would it just be one awesome three-way? Rhys, this is my invite. He would say yes.
Yeah, he would say yes. Quote, if I fucked him for it, what would you do?
No one here is happy with Rhys's answer. Basically, he just tells Feyre that she's free to do whatever she wants. Rhys is giving Feyre the power in theory, but he's somehow also taking it away from her. As the conversation goes on, he then threatens Feyre like a child. Quote, do not, he said softly, his eyes like stars, jeopardize this mission. Thank you, Rhys, for informing me not to jeopardize this mission. I totally thought that I was supposed to screw this whole thing up. But now you said not to. Thank God. Thank God you've explained the plan for me, you dumb ass. I would not do well here.
You were like, oh, great. Now I know not to screw things up, but I'll screw Tarquin. We're good.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Oh, you want me to not jeopardize the mission? Great. I'm going to go sleep with him then. Like,
yeah,
just
stupid.
He makes me so mad. Feyre has way more patience than I am capable of.
She does have a lot of patience.
She does.
I think what I love most about this scene is the fact that it's almost an exact replica of Feyre and Rhys's conversation before the Weaver's cottage when Rhys offered Cassian's services to her. And she said, well, maybe I'll ask him. And Rhys is like, okay.
Right? And it's kind of like one day. How many times does Rhys have to do that for her to just take him up on it?
Right?
Just keep going. Want to go through your list, Rhys?
Right.
Let's get to Asriel.
She would take him up on that.
Oh,
and then
would.
he would be so pissy, and it's his own fault.
It's a risky thing to just keep pushing that.
So why is it that each of these tests to find something is laced with sexual overtones?
All right, so time for us to owe Rhys a nice big apology.
As we were just ragging on him like 2 seconds ago.
I know. Is Rhys in charge of his own actions? Yes. But can we understand Rhys a bit better? Double yes. Why does Rhys act the way he does? What if it's because he's a victim of sexual assault? What if it's because he spent 50 years trapped with his attacker and doesn't understand how to not use sex as a weapon? He only knows how to use sex as that. And sorry, Rhys, that's definitely our bad. 50 years. Even though he has many years before that using sex as a healthy way, maybe even a way of communication, but, you know, the trauma's there.
It is. It's still 10% of his lifetime.
Yeah.
That's like 3 years for me.
And, you know, it can be 1%. It's still
trauma.
It's still traumatic. And Rhys is old enough and hopefully self-aware enough that he would not hurt Feyre in this way or use his own trauma as a weapon against her. However, it is way more understandable why he does what he does.
Right. And think about how sex was used against him or how he utilized sex with Amarantha. He used it to keep her distracted. Mm-hmm. And so sex is a survival technique for him.
Yep.
And so to offer sex, how is this not him trying to like not panic? Like this is him treading water kind of. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How many times underneath the mountain did he have to distract Amarantha with sex?
Right.
Right? Trying to make sure that she doesn't notice that he went to Calamai. Trying to, yes, Amy has her ooh face.
That's why he keeps offering sex to Feyre, because he's trying to help her survive. It's the only survival technique he knows.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it.
No,
but that's all he knows how to offer her.
I mean, eventually when they're in the cabin, not like the cabin, but when they're in that little like hotel, motel, she's trying to heal and he's kind of like, okay, you can take me however you can. Oh my God, which is even sadder because that's what Amarantha kind of did to him of like, you're just here to service me. Oh my heart. Oh my God, did that just, oh Nelly, that was not great.
This episode, folks, is just going to suck.
Oh my God. We got so depressed writing our notes. We got depressed reading our notes. And we're going to be depressed telling you our notes. Let's all cry together because we're going to cry on here.
I think that what we're seeing between this scene here and this scene before the Weaver's cottage are two instances leading up to the most important thing Feyre will ever find, and that is her mate. As we'll see in a future episode, Feyre attempts to use these same powers to find Rhys when he's been captured, the process through which she will realize that he is her mate. There is a moment in their exchange that Feyre thinks of Rhysand in this way, quote, "The sheer power of him enveloped me, shaking me awake." In previous episodes, I discussed how Feyre uses sleep to avoid her emotions, which in turn helps her avoid accessing her power. Last week, I discussed how Velaris was helping Feyre wake up, signaling a turning point. Here we have another turning point for Feyre. Rhys's power is waking Feyre, specifically waking her power. Because what happens next? Instead of lighting a candle at Rhys's command, she summons water. In doing so, Feyre realizes, quote, "No one was my master, but I might be master of everything if I wished, if I dared."
So do you think that Feyre summoned water just to piss him off? Because the way he responds is like, why can't you listen to me? I always thought that she couldn't summon water because like that's where she's at and that's what her powers are most powerful right now.
That's how I interpreted it. I don't think it was intentional. I think that was just what she was most in tune with.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
That's my answer too.
Okay.
Maybe Rhys knows that.
I think so. I think he was just being cheeky.
I was going to say cheeky too.
Oh.
When Feyre tells herself that she might be the master of everything, I think it's important that she thinks this to herself. And something we have to remember, Feyre might be the master of everything if she wished. So when does she actually wish that? And when do we see that?
In my personal opinion, battle for Velaris. That's when it's not that she wishes it, she becomes it. She embodies it. And I have a lot of thoughts about that I'm going to save for a future episode.
Yeah, that's fair. Really, as we said earlier, this sequence of chapters, it's a big turning point. She doesn't settle on anything just yet, but she's starting the path for the growth that she's eventually going to do.
This is growth, but it's also groundwork for future growth.
Yep.
When Feyre tells Rhysand she would go back to the Spring Court to avoid a war if Tamlin initiated one, Rhysand shows his true colors. He says, quote, "Tamlin locked you up because he knew. The bastard knew what a treasure you are, that you are worth more than land or gold or jewels. He knew and he wanted to keep you all to himself. The issue isn't whether he loved you, it's how much. Too much. Love can be a poison." I want to make a quick comparison here. Last week, Feyre observed Velaris and the Rainbow of Velaris as a fistful of jewels that Rhys hoards, if you think about it, from the rest of the world. So how is Rhys no different than Tamlin here, and how do you think Feyre feels being compared to jewelry?
That first part was a question we didn't discuss.
I know, I wrote that in.
What the fuck?
Sorry.
All right, ask me the first one again.
How are Rhys and Tamlin no different? Tamlin hoarded Feyre, who Rhys views as a treasure.
Gotcha.
And Rhys hoards Velaris, which keeps being compared to treasure.
Yeah, great questions. Great questions.
Are they different?
The obvious answer is yes, in the sense that one's for safety, one's for dominance. Actually, that's the answer. One's for safety of people, one's for dominance of Feyre.
I would say Tamlin thinks it's safety for Feyre.
Yeah, but it's like, we can think the things we want to think, but Velaris isn't capable of taking care of themselves, and Feyre could be.
Here's my other thought related to this. I don't think that these two things are different in the sense of I do think Rhys is hoarding Velaris, just the same way Tamlin hoarded Feyre. The difference to me is that Rhys is willing to give up Velaris when it's needed.
Oh, very good point. In the meantime, I prepared my answers for the second question you asked.
Which was, how does Feyre feel about being compared to jewelry?
I have a real answer that you're going to appreciate.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Later on, Amy, you're going to point out what it means for Feyre to accept a certain piece of jewelry. So when you say, how does Feyre feel about being compared to jewelry? It's this statement that allows her to then see the resemblance later on.
I just got goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree with you.
No one else understands what we're saying because they haven't gotten to that part of the episode yet.
It will all be revealed in time.
And then come back to here and then hear me saying that again. And then you'll be like, oh my God, Jack, you were so smart. Goosebumps.
I also want to take a moment to think about the love can be a poison quote. I think Rhysand is suggesting he's sick of Feyre sacrificing herself for the greater good here, but I could be wrong.
I think it's also Rhys viewing his love for Feyre as poison. After all, he loves her, but it's also slowly killing him in a way. He's waiting for her to recover, waiting for Feyre to fall in love with him. I think that this is him admitting just how much he's hurting.
I can see that because he is saying a lot of things that pertain to him here in general that we assume pertain to other people. He's not being vulnerable. He's being honest, but not vulnerable.
As he always is.
As always.
Feyre dresses herself for the pleasure barge, but again, this is a facade of a choice. Rhys brought a bunch of clothes from the night court, and Feyre gets to pick from what he already decided was appropriate. So, what Feyre chooses is something that makes her feel feminine, soft, pretty. Quote, I hadn't felt those things in a long, long time. Hadn't wanted to. But here, being those things wouldn't earn me a ticket to a life of party planning. Here, I could be soft and lovely at sunset and awaken in the morning to slide into Illyrian fighting leathers. Feyre has always sought out the feminine and the masculine. And again, I'm using the stereotypical description of feminine and masculine, which does not represent my views on gender norms. For the sake of this discussion, Feyre has always been looking for the balance of the two, and she never fully found it, not in the Spring Court, where she gave up her masculine, and not in the human lands, where she gave up the feminine role. What's interesting here, though, is that Feyre comes to this realization outside of the Night Court. It takes her going to the Summer Court, getting into uniform to realize that she gets to be what she wants to be in the Night Court.
I think that this is a perfect example of distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she's able to appreciate what the Night Court has given her by not being in the Night Court.
Absolutely.
Like the lunch scene earlier in the day, food is being used on the pleasure barge during Feyre and Tarquin's conversation to signal power. Feyre sips wine and picks at her salad during her conversation with Tarquin as a tool to buy time or deflect attention. She is casual in her approach, all the while controlling the conversation. And then Feyre pulls a Rhys. She uses the truth as a weapon. Quote, I'm thinking it would be very easy to love you and easier to call you my friend.
I love this quote so much, and I just want to use it, and I don't know how. I don't know when in real world I can say that.
Yeah, and get away with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get away with that.
But I'm going to try.
Please report back.
It's going to fail spectacularly, but it's just such a great power move.
It is a very good power move.
Ugh, love it.
When Feyre looks to Rhys, maybe with the hope of getting his approval, she instead sees Cressida and Rhys making eyes at each other. It is, in my mind, this perceived rejection of Feyre in this moment that makes Feyre realize she is both lonely and unhappy. And in doing so, she realizes that she had darkness in her, quote, not only from Amarantha, but from years being hungry and desperate.
I don't think Feyre, or even us as readers, expected Feyre to look for Rhys's approval. It's not something that she's done before, and for the first time she tries to get it and is denied, which makes this feeling of rejection so much more intense. But really, this is the second time she's not getting approval. Just the page before, Feyre asks Tarquin to view his stash of jewels, and when he agrees, Feyre looks to Rhysand, quote, not even a hint of approval or amusement going through our bond. Feyre is really leaning on Rhys here, trying to get him to approve of her actions, something she's never done before.
So my thought on this is that since arriving to the Summer Court earlier in the day, there have been at least 2 occasions that I can recall off the top of my head where Rhys looks at Feyre with delight or approval or sends approval down the bond.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, has Feyre not grown accustomed to that reassurance?
And then he's denying it because he's jealous,
yes.
Which is something he wanted her to do because he told her to go fuck him.
Yes.
Internal screaming happening right now.
So, yeah, it's not something Feyre's ever done before the Summer Court, but this is her first mission. And she was getting that positive reinforcement. And now she's like, out at sea, literally.
As a person who has words of affirmation.
Who needs words of affirmation?
Who needs words of affirmation. What do they also call it? Like a praise kink?
Yeah.
I would be devastated.
Absolutely. Oh, this would just slice my gut open.
I can't. It's like, especially if I'm seeking it and you don't tell me I did a good job.
Oh, I get in trouble when I don't give you praise.
I was about to say, how often do I look to you and say, Amy, tell me I did a good job?
Yeah.
Or I'll just stand there.
And you'll just keep staring at me until I realize, oh, shoot. Good job, Jack.
Exactly. I do that to my mom, too. I do that to a lot of people where I'm like looking at them like, I'm sorry, you haven't praised me yet.
But you don't say that. You just keep looking at them.
Because you should know.
Exactly.
It's not my fault, Amy. You haven't praised me yet. Tarquin asks Feyre what the mortal worlds are like, and this is a question that no one else has asked Feyre at this point. Not only is Tarquin willing to learn about the lands that are not like his at all and learn about the humans who are weaker, but he's also admitting the obvious, that Feyre is from the mortal lands because she was mortal, a truth that those around her struggle to put into words so clearly. As Feyre gives description of the mortal lands and is super honest about how much they suck, Feyre says, quote, for them, her sisters, I would fight, but for those sycophants and peacocks, I would not mind to see their order disrupted. I love this quote because Feyre is stepping away from being human. There's a certain amount of disassociation here. Also, why peacocks? Do we find the mortal lands to be particularly flashy? Not in the way that the Feylands are. But Feyre feels that the humans are trying to put on airs. And again, this is her distancing herself from the mortals.
This is where we get to the first or the second gut punch of this chapter. At the end, Feyre talks about feeling lonely, and I know exactly how this feels. Feyre says, quote, I didn't realize I'd been waiting for him, Rhysand, until the barge docked at the base of the island city, and I'd somehow spent the entire final hour alone. It is tragic that, in feeling lonely, Feyre has isolated herself even more. It's so self-sabotaging, but very, very relatable. It heightens those feelings of loneliness Feyre has and pushes her thoughts further away from comprehending the reality of the situation, which is that Rhys is playing a part. This sets the reader and Feyre up for how the rest of the summer court chapters will go.
This whole section is messed up, and Rhys hurts my feelings personally for this. This is where I got hurt so much. Feyre has just discovered that she's lonely, that she wants that missing piece to be filled. Quote, I suppose I've been granted that gift once, had used it up and fought for it and broken it. Even if for a moment I wanted it, I wanted to feel like that again. That is the most hollowing feeling, realizing that you want something again, because you have to recognize what is missing. And there's a difference between a loneliness of what you don't know and a loneliness and hollowness of what was once there. That feeling of knowing that it has once been filled and stretched to the point of pain is now bare. You know what it can be like, and now you're so very aware of just how empty you are. Feyre was lonely before Tamlin, and that made her cold. But having a love and then losing that, that's a loneliness that makes you hollow.
I can't even imagine that personally, but I don't ever want to experience it.
It sucks balls.
I believe it. You said that Rhys hurts your feelings personally, but can we actually pin the blame on him? Rationally, in this moment, what he's doing is obvious. He's working on the mission. And Feyre guards her mind, so it's not like he can read her mind right now.
Yeah, they can't have a little secret conversation right now.
Right. But I
Can
get
we
it.
blame Rhys? No.
She can't blame Rhys,
But
but
do I want to? Yes.
Yeah. I understand it's triggering. I've been there where your rational mind
knows
it, but you're like, nope, I can't be rational right now.
Constantly, all the time in therapy, it's like, all right, now state the things that support your statement. There's none. Now state the things that support the rational. There's a bunch.
Yeah. Don't enjoy that process.
No. Let me be sad on a boat.
And irrational.
And irrational.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince's wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Feyre understands that while loving Tarquin would be easy, she has learned more about herself and why they wouldn't work. That Feyre is realizing her own needs in a relationship, something that she is doing for the first time. It's a lot of firsts for her.
Now a word from this episode's sponsor.
Are you looking for ideas to spice up your self-care or maybe need some inspiration for a date night with your partner?
Meet Cute Box is a themed date night box filled with unique items from small businesses around the world, and it's a great way to add a bit of creativity to your date night with yourself or a significant other.
Membership starts at only $29.99 for boxes value up to $100. Whether you're single, in a relationship, engaged, or married, these boxes are tailored to you. Every box you receive is handmade based on your membership profile, so you have a new surprise each month.
If you're looking for ways to keep date nights fun and exciting, or maybe even the perfect self-care night in, you can try Meet Cute Box risk-free by visiting meetcutebox.com and use the code PODCAST for $10 off your first box. Go check it out. At the start of chapter 34, when Feyre assumes Rhys has spent the evening with Cressida, Feyre wakes up from a nightmare of being turned over a spit. This is a Thorns and Roses reference. If you don't recall, the guards under the mountain threatened to roast Feyre like a pig on a spit. Why is this the memory that Feyre dreams of? I think it's because that's when Feyre felt the most alone. No Tamlin to save her, no Lucian to check on her, and honestly, she still thought Rhys was an enemy. Feyre is reminded of how alone she is right now when she assumes Rhys has chosen another woman. But Rhys is there symbolically in the surroundings. Feyre observes a glimmer of moonlight on the sea, but it just is out of reach. So what does Feyre do? She begins to create distance as a defense mechanism against the loneliness.
This is the first time in A Court of Mist and Fury that Feyre feels like Rhys isn't there for her. She thinks that he went off with Cressida feeling abandoned, which makes sense that she would refer to a time when she felt alone. Feyre wakes up from a dream and immediately soothes herself by identifying as a weapon. Quote, "A weapon. I was a weapon to find that book." There is purpose and danger to being a weapon, something that Feyre is learning to be/have.
But by doing so, Feyre dehumanizes herself. And this might be because to be less human is easier than feeling her feelings. While it's not the same as choosing to sleep, it's also not the healthiest choice that Feyre's made. When Feyre begins to feel human feelings again, such as missing Velaris and being part of the inner circle, she counters it with lies to herself. Quote, "Maybe wrapping his wings around me had been Rhys's way of ensuring his weapon didn't break beyond repair. That was fine. We owed each other nothing beyond our promises to work and fight together." It's heartbreaking then that her final thought in this scene is, quote, "It'd just been a relief to think that for a moment he might have been as lonely as me." And then you feel that loneliness from the end of chapter 33 all over again.
It's a misery loves company moment. And while Feyre might not admit this now, she found a kindred spirit with Rhys, something she eventually admits. But for now, Rhys is someone to hurt with her or to hurt because of him.
It is from this feeling of loneliness that Feyre begins to focus on creating her water butterflies in the bathtub. This is the first of a series of water creatures she will begin to experiment with. As Feyre told herself in the previous chapter, she will become a master and no longer a pet. But let's take a second to wonder why butterflies. Well, they're soft and delicate and beautiful, maybe like the feminine side of Feyre. They also go through a metamorphosis from a caterpillar to become a butterfly, just as Feyre did when she died as a human and was remade into a high fae.
And why something that can fly? We already know that Feyre is interested in the concept of flying. And of course, butterflies have wings and, they fly, she can fly. But why not a more badass animal that has wings? I get the idea that butterflies, caterpillar, metamorphosis, yay. But just, if you're going to make your first little water animals,
make them wasp.
Just make a cool, would you say wasp?
Yeah.
I was not thinking wasp.
Well, I was trying to stay with the whole metamorphosis theme.
No, I'm okay with it. It's better. I'm shocked by it. That was an aggressive thing to choose, but you're not wrong. That'd be so much better. It can sting Rhys.
Exactly.
Yo, you're great. You're brilliant.
Thanks. One of the things I thought about when considering butterflies is the fact that this is just the first stage of several water creatures Feyre will create. And so it's camouflaged, it's a decoy, like butterfly wings can be, like the dress and makeup Nuala puts on Feyre to make her look innocent and charming for Tarquin. But what we know to be true is that Feyre is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and she describes it herself a few pages later as, quote, "a fox in the chicken coop." Another reason why it might be a butterfly: don't forget that Nuala was a good spy and put Feyre in the same colors as Tarquin so that they look like a matching set, just like a pair of butterfly wings.
Yeah. Let's talk about Feyre's outfit here. First, Nuala is the one to pick Feyre's outfit. The perceived autonomy that Feyre had is now gone. And Nuala, really, who, let's be honest, that's Rhys is back in charge, which is why Feyre's dress matches what Tarquin is wearing. Nuala set this up. Again, Nuala, Rhys, it's all the same. On top of that, Nuala does Feyre's makeup to come across as innocent and charming. This is again childlike, something that Rhysand keeps putting onto Feyre. When Feyre leaves with Tarquin, Feyre won't look at Rhys or speak to him. Even when he can't get past her shield, Feyre continues to not pay him any attention. Instead, Feyre gives Tarquin a pretty smile that she hasn't given anyone in a long, long time. Feyre knows what she's doing with this, and she knows the goal is to hurt Rhys. The manipulation is very Rhys-like, and Feyre has learned a new tool. Weaponize your charm, something that Rhys already does, and he can't get mad at because he taught Feyre what to do, and he keeps telling her to sleep with other men, and I don't know what he wants from her.
So I just thought of a parallel here. This reminds me of Summer Solstice. Alice put flowers in Feyre's hair, making her look childlike. And she smiled prettily at Tamlin at the end because it was the happiest day of her life.
Yeah.
So what's happening is she's taking her happiest memory and weaponizing it in this instance, which I think is really fascinating, actually.
No, I love that.
It's just a thought.
It's a great thought.
Though Feyre has spent the evening and morning focused on her purpose, reminding herself that she's a weapon with a goal, the self-hatred is not entirely gone from Feyre's system. In telling Tarquin she is not a thief, Feyre thinks to herself, quote, "lying, two-faced wretch."
Here's a question for both of us. Do you think you could steal from Tarquin?
100%.
I agree. Me too.
It's not hard.
I mean, yeah, just take it.
He's too naive.
You can return it. You just need it for one moment.
I'm a morally gray character. I just don't care.
It's just like, okay, you need to save the world.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll save it. I'm not going to keep it forever. You can have it when I'm done.
Right. I don't feel the need to explain myself.
Maybe if you weren't so cagey about it, I wouldn't have to steal from you.
Exactly.
Here's what we do. We gaslight them.
Yes.
So that we feel better about ourselves.
Burn the patriarchy.
Burn Tarquin. Not him. He's cool, actually. I do like him quite a bit.
I like him, but there's a certain naivety to him that I'm just like, meh, you had it coming. I might as well be the one to teach you because it's not malicious coming
It's because he's a little baby of only 80 years old.
Little baby. In complete contrast to Feyre, Tarquin flatters her, and Feyre observes, quote, his smile was soft, as if his position had not yet broken the compassion in him. I hoped it never did. Tarquin is that nice boy that adores you, but you're broken and emo enough inside. You just want the bad boy who wears leather. And years later, you wonder why you just didn't settle for the good thing. I wasn't personally reliving.
Which guy is that?
Every just like...
romance?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I was seriously like, I'm like, who is in leather, Amy?
Oh, nobody. I wish there were some leather-studded boys.
I love how the description of the bad boys in our mind is like, leather-studded. But my actual bad boys were just lazy.
Yeah, because most of them are. But really, if you ever wondered why Feyre wouldn't just go for Tarquin instead of messy old Rhysand...
Old Rhysand. I don't know, I miss that. Messy old Rhysand. It makes me think of messy old Rhysand.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Messy old Rhysand.
Crazy old Maurice.
Gosh, I hate to see you, Tarquin, or Feyre, looking all down in the dumps. Every girl wants to be you, Feyre, even while checking your apple lumps.
That needs to happen. What I was trying to say is that Tarquin is too good and whole, and Feyre is not.
I really derailed that sentence.
It's okay. It's totally fine. I enjoyed it. Coming back to this idea that Feyre would never choose Tarquin, think about the jewelry that Feyre is attracted to in the treasure trove in the Summer Court's vaults. It's not the sapphires, which are blue like the Summer Court, but the black diamonds. Quote, each of the dark stones was a mystery and an answer. Each of them slumbered.
When Feyre is admiring the treasure trove, what she sees are some rather large red rubies. And Feyre just admires them and thinks about the kind of woman who would wear that, rather than feeling scared and worried about the color red. And the last time we think of Feyre with rubies, it's when she was at the tithe with Tamlin and gave away her bracelet. Again, rubies are red and they mean death for her. And you can look at this and say, yes, she's grown past it. Red doesn't mean that for her. But the fact that trauma and red were linked so well could have been a much more impactful metaphor that should honestly have been carried out to this point.
Yeah, I think it kind of fizzles out, to be honest.
By the time she sees Rhysand, yeah, after her wedding day, she gets over it real fast.
Yeah, there's maybe one more instance of her being triggered by it, but not much after that.
It was a powerful moment because it impacted her creativity and her painting and the artistry within herself. And, it just feels like these red rubies would have been such a great callback. Even a simple line as rubies red that once brought such a visceral reaction from me. You know what I mean?
I no longer saw Amarantha.
Yeah, that a great woman, not Amarantha, could have worn. Just something, some kind of callback.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lost opportunity.
Yep.
Tarquin offers the black diamond necklace to Feyre. Now, the last necklace that Feyre accepted was the amulet from Amren for the sole purpose of being able to get back out of the prison. But Feyre discovered that that was a lie. So why does Feyre accept the necklace when Tarquin offers it? I think it's because it has purpose. While it's not getting her out of somewhere, this necklace is helping build trust between Feyre and Tarquin, and also helps Feyre avoid insulting Tarquin when she needs to find the Book of Breathings. The necklace also maybe most accurately reflects Feyre in a way no other jewelry ever has before. Feyre is the black diamonds in the necklace. She's a mystery to herself, but the answer lies within her. Her power slumbers until she's able to fully awaken it.
Now go back to Amy's earlier question of Feyre, how does she handle being compared to jewelry? This was the moment that I was referencing. Rhys compares Feyre to jewelry, and I think that was a moment that led her to this. She sees herself in these black diamonds. She sees that they're a sleeping power and is starting to accept that in herself.
I also think that she's beginning to see that the jewelry can be like the bejeweled hunting dagger or the bejeweled belt for the hunting dagger that Lucien gave her, that it's an extension of her as a weapon. It can still be utilized for power.
It's powerful, yeah. It's totally a weapon, and we should be well armed, Amy.
We should be very well armed.
To the teeth.
To the teeth.
I want all the black diamonds and rubies, and I'll take literally anything.
When Tarquin promises to not speak of Feyre's being in the summer court to keep her safe from Tamlin, Feyre thinks again, quote, thief, liar, manipulator, I didn't deserve his alliance. Her guilt and self-hatred at manipulating a kind man is getting to Feyre, and though she has recently been thinking in terms of art and paint, when she gets to the vault of artwork, Feyre turns away. I think this moment is a step backward for Feyre, because as much as she can act a part, she at her core is not naturally devious, and she's beginning to doubt herself for being two-faced to a kind male. A male so genuinely kind that I think honestly she's never encountered someone like this before in her entire lifetime.
Oh, I don't even think I have. No, I take it back. Randall's very nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
He'll appreciate that.
He'll never listen to this.
No.
No, now I'm thinking about all the other really nice guys.
Oh.
It's more than Randall. I've met many nice men in my life.
Sorry for all the men she dissed.
Feyre always ends up not being the animal she says she is. She said that she's Rhys's bloodhound, and, well, she's not doing that here. Instead, Feyre is having a crisis. When Feyre gets back to her bedroom, Rhys is already on her bed as if he owns it. There's something sexual and claiming about this action. This is Feyre's safe space, a place that she gets to go back to and hide after a really long day. This is also Rhys clearly showing dominance and ownership. If there is going to be a moment of honesty and real conversation, it's going to be on his terms and in his time.
We then get to the bedroom scene, where Feyre and Rhysand exchange their iconic lines, and for once, Rhys's insecurities are coming out in earnest. Rhys's vulnerability is genuine here, as much crap as I've given him over the course of this season. And I do understand his feeling of otherness, that others have it easy, and so does Feyre at her core. Others have always had it easier than Feyre. Her sisters had it easier, the rest of the Supreme Court had it easier, etc. And for all her loneliness, it is this moment that Feyre realizes that she can't distance herself because she really is one of the inner circle. She's one of those misfits on the island of toys. She is the huntress with an artist's soul.
It is a beautiful moment that I think is important for people to relate to.
Yeah.
That feeling of otherness. The otherness is something that Feyre identifies with, but as the story progresses in this book and into the next, Feyre seeks out the otherness in other people. It's what she did with the water wraith, and it's who Feyre is. Note, Feyre has also started calling Amren beautiful. If you remember, she originally described Amren as being borderline plain.
Which I think just supports our theory that
she's racist?
She views powerful women who are a threat as plain.
Yep, completely. If she thinks you're a threat, then you damn well be ugly.
Yep, exactly.
Overall, this scene really highlights the emotional intimacy between Rhys and Feyre. Rhys gets to be jealous and admits to it, but I think there's more in his admission when he's asked about flirting with Cressida. Quote, do you think I particularly like having to flirt with a lonely female? Do you think I feel good about myself doing that? This can be extra triggering for Rhys because he's a survivor of sexual assault and has had sex used against him in order to survive. And now he's playing on the other person's vulnerability.
What I am confused about is whether Rhys thinks it's cruel when he flirts with Feyre, who is also a lonely female.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think he would beat himself up over it. But rather than in this instance when he's using it as a tool to get something, which again, very much an Amarantha move, I think with Feyre, it's still some hope that she'll reciprocate.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so this part might be dumb, but, quote, the rest of the world faded to mist as the words sank in. You are jealous. This book is called Mist and Fury, and we get no mist. I don't understand the title, Mist and Fury. I get A Court of Thorns and Roses, Wing and Ruin. But
Silver Flames.
Silver Flames, yes. There is no mist. Plenty of fury. Show me the mist.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. Part 3 is called House of Mist, which we'll discuss later.
What house is that, Amy?
I don't know.
We had House of Beasts. We have House of Wings. Is that where we're at? Something like that.
House of Wind.
House of Wind? Where the hell is Mist?
I don't know. We end this scene with this beautiful parallel that happens between Rhys and Feyre. And it's not about the words that they exchange, but the action of Feyre beginning to pour drinks for her and Rhysand. If you'll recall, under the mountain, after Rhysand had to kill Tarquin's courtier to hide the Summer Court's secret uprising, Rhysand gives Feyre a goblet of wine and they drink to forget. Here, in Tarquin's palace in the Summer Court, Feyre pours Rhys and herself a glass, and they drink together after making a toast to hope. We have come full circle, from absolute despair and shared intimacy in that despair, to now having hope and shared intimacy in the vulnerability of wanting more than life has given Rhys and Feyre so far. Ugh, it gives me chills, it makes me want to cry. I don't really care about the quotes. It's truly just the action alone that does it for me.
And let's read the famous quote where Rhys says, "And he, being Tarquin, will never know what it is to look up at the night sky and wish." Then Feyre says, after toasting him, "To the people who look at the stars and wish, Rhys." And he responds, "To the stars who listen and dreams that are answered." Like Amy said, in theory, beautiful. The sentiment is there, but I don't know, maybe it's because TikTok ruined it. It's so cringy.
I think TikTok ruined it because I did get chills when you read it. I do like it, but I think social media ruined it for me.
To the stars who listen and the dreams that are answered. Yeah, the
cheese factor is high.
And I love cheese, both metaphorical and real. But yeah, TikTok ruined it for me.
Yep.
People, you can edit my voice reading it and maybe you'll get chills. That's not it.
Chapter 35 opens with an interesting bit of introspection as Feyre scours Adriata for the Book of Breathings. Feyre feels that, quote, every moment of it was a balancing act of truth and lies. Now, isn't this her entire existence?
It's her existence, but it's not her. Feyre doesn't lie. If you think about it, this trip to the summer court is the first time that Feyre's had to be deceitful. She does not know how to lie. Despite everyone else around her constantly lying, Feyre is still struggling.
For the first time, Feyre sees fairies truly impacted by Amarantha, not the high fae kept in the court under the mountain, and not the lesser fairies kept in the camps, but the fairies who remained in the courts who, like the buildings around the city, had, quote, scars and missing limbs. But in their eyes light gleamed. I had saved them too, freed them from whatever horrors had occurred during those last 5 decades. I think this is an important moment and an important step for Feyre in her journey to healing. For the first time, she sees individuals broken like herself, who continue to have hope despite the atrocities that have taken place, and who are working to rebuild. I think she feels a kinship here, which helps her feel less heavy.
This is also the first time Feyre is really understanding just how many fae she saved. When Feyre saved everyone, the individuals she knew were pretty limited. Even when she was in Valaris, it didn't dawn on her because they were safe. Rhys had made sure of that. But here in the summer court, there's more fae and they're actively rebuilding. Also, what they're rebuilding has more value to her. Feyre admires cities, and the last group that she saw rebuilding was the small village in the spring court, which reminded her of her own small mortal village. There's a certain amount of indifference Feyre had with the spring court village. Their rebuilding did not have the same impact on her.
I see what you're saying, but I think that makes Feyre sound much more cold than she really is, or at least I wonder to what extent did she just not have the emotional capacity.
I'm gonna lean cold, but maybe because, I just like a spicy Feyre. But, in the beginning of the book when she was at the village, she specifically said it reminded her of her home. And it was just so blasé of this could basically be my village. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, trauma, and she was definitely in a different place mentally. But, I don't know, I lean towards cold Feyre just because it sounds good. But yeah, she's in a different place, too.
Varian and Amren are then compared to a dog chasing a cat, which I adore.
Yes, Amy, you adore, because as someone who owns both a dog and a cat, that is you, and you relate far more to your cat than you do your dog, and you are constantly compared to Amren on TikTok and real life by me, because you're very Amren. This part always makes me laugh and think of you.
I do envision Rowan and Dahlia when I think of Varian and Amren.
It's a compliment when I say you're like Amren in real life.
No, I know. We mentioned last week that Feyre is no longer about the stagnant weather of the spring and summer courts. Valaris has shown her how to like change and movement, and maybe even appreciate the cold weather, where once she hated and dreaded the cold of the human realm. We see that again here as Feyre explores Adriata. Quote, there had once been a time when I had dreaded the end of summer, had prayed it would hold out for as long as possible. Now the thought of endless warmth and sun made me bored, restless.
Talk about the growth. Feyre is openly admitting that she doesn't like these other courts that never change and actively compares them to the Night Court, which she is willing to admit that she likes more. This is character development, people. It is smooth, it is subtle, and it is well done. Sarah J. Maas. Feyre and Nuala planned Feyre's clothes together for the first time at the summer court. Feyre has now learned from the Shadow Spy on how clothes don't have to just be a uniform, but also a weapon. Before, Feyre's huntress clothing was a weapon, and her feminine clothing was there to represent safety. Now Feyre's learning that the feminine clothing isn't just about safety, that feminine can also be dangerous as well.
Note that Feyre eats a common fish lunch during her excursions that not even Tarquin himself has ever consumed, and tells the young High Lord about it. Here, Feyre is using her appearance as well as food as a clever deception to make it seem as if she is assimilating in the summer court, that she is like Tarquin just as her power is like Tarquin's, in the hope that she can successfully steal the Book of Breathings.
Food is power. Amy, please tell me, isn't this the first time that Feyre has used food as a power move?
I would argue that this is the first time Feyre has used food as an offensive power move rather than a defensive power move.
Getting into sports talk here.
Yeah.
22. Hike. Touchdown. Baseball? Football.
Yeah.
No, I know touchdown's football, but the 22, yeah, that's football too.
That's also football.
I like sports.
But to my point, anytime Feyre has used food, it's been in reaction to something and not as an overt offensive, I'm going to come at you first.
Yeah, I can see that. And because Feyre hasn't mastered this concept, I would say that's why it's a much more casual type of food. It's something that she ate with the fishermen at the market by the boats. Once Feyre gets more confident with her manipulation tactics, I'm pretty sure we're going to see the quality of food improve.
I'm excited to see that.
I can't confirm that that's going to happen, but I'm going to just throw it out there, probably.
We'll see. When Feyre infiltrates Tarquin's thoughts, she adapts, becoming what he needs to see to convince him to gain the information she needs. This is the first of several deceptions Feyre will perform, and she's good at playing the part. It's not the first, but whatever. In this, we see a subtle shift of Feyre's understanding of right and wrong, good and bad. Feyre was not willing to play a part in Tamlin's charade in the spring court, but here she's willing to play her role to save Prythian and her family from Hybern. How different are the stakes here that the shift is justifiable?
If anything, this is far more invasive than what Tamlin wanted her to do. I think it's because Feyre herself has always been a weapon. She was a weapon to protect her sisters, and she was a weapon against Amarantha. Tamlin wanted her to be a tool, not a thing of power.
Did Tamlin want her to be a tool, or did he want her to be a figurehead?
Maybe initially a figurehead, but I think by the time that she was going back and forth from the Night Court, he wanted her to be a tool.
Okay, that's fair.
And he wasn't teaching her, like, how to spy 101.
Right. He just said, give me information.
Yeah. Weaponize her, damn it, to show respect. Rhys has embraced the sight of her, and while it is for his own purpose, they have also become Feyre's purpose as well in order to protect her sisters and the human world. But more importantly, Rhys has given Feyre the tools to becoming a better and stronger weapon, a thing that she was always meant to be and always has been.
By invading Tarquin's mind, Feyre does feel like she has completed a gross violation, but only afterward, and after she's righted her wrong, as she tells Rhys later. Is her justification sufficient, or has she become like the T from Chapter 5 and morally gray?
I would invade his mind so I could get the tea. I would invade his mind so hard.
Yeah, I believe it.
I'm a nosy person. Earlier, all I do is call you, Amy, come downstairs, there's cops outside. Bring the dog. I want to make it look like we're here for a reason. Yeah, I'm way too nosy. I hope I would feel guilty, but I would 100% snoop. Like, does he think I'm pretty? What does he do in the morning? Tell me all the hot goss. I don't say hot goss, but you know what I mean.
As Feyre accompanies Tarquin throughout Adriata at the start of chapter 36, Feyre's guilt continues to compound. Quote, liar, thief, deceiver, that's what they'd call me soon. Note that there's no direct dialogue in this scene between Feyre and Tarquin, as if Feyre's removed herself emotionally, distancing her mind from her physical body to minimize the damage her guilt may cause.
Feyre is back on her titles issues. She really is concerned about what people call her. I think it's crazy how much it contrasts against Rhysand, who uses titles as a weapon, and really he embraces all of the negative titles.
You know what you could call these titles?
No.
Masks.
Yes, for whatever reason, I was expecting something like super punny.
Oh,
but what you said was intellectually correct.
Thanks, I think. Now I feel disappointed that I didn't give you a pun.
No, it's fine. You brought me joy with your brains. Yay. Why am I such a bitch?
I don't know. Instead, Feyre thinks of home, or Valaris, and dresses in Illyrian fighting leathers at the end of the scene. This is her true form, or her inner wolf. And is it just me, or does something about this feel very empowering?
Oh, it's super empowering. It's Feyre finding her identity with clothes and centering herself with it. It's a reminder of who she is and what she is capable of. Feyre admires the summer court and how they are trying to rebuild with a tentative, hard-won warmth. And I'll keep saying it, but she hasn't seen this before. The spring court was resentful while rebuilding, if at all, since Tamlin was just trying to go back to how it was, while Tarquin is trying to create something new, and Rhysand was just there to preserve Valaris. By viewing this, Feyre says, quote, as I should be moving on beyond my own darkness. Question, if Feyre had seen this in the spring court, this rebuilding, this energy, not with Tamlin, but with the people, would it have empowered Feyre a bit more to help her leave him? Would it have given her the strength to push back against Tamlin?
I don't know my answer to this. Honestly, I keep thinking about it, and I don't think so.
I think Feyre needed to be inspired by someone.
I agree that Feyre needed to be inspired by someone. I can't fathom her finding inspiration.
So we love to play this game all the time of like, what would have happened? Would Feyre have recovered faster? I personally think she would have. I think she was always going to recover with or without Rhysand. It would have taken longer, but I think she just needed something to spark her. But going back to what we were talking in our TikTok live, the fun game of what would happen if Mor never came to get her. And I think she would have gone dark Feyre.
I think she would have gone dark Feyre. I think that was her villain origin story, to have been trapped. I just find it very difficult to imagine anything have given her inspiration because so many people looked down on her and patronized her that even seeing people rebuild, I think she would have been resentful and been like, well, no one's allowing me to rebuild myself.
Mm-hmm. Even if they were like a hopeful rebuild, because they were rebuilding, but they weren't hopeful about it. They were all beaten up.
I still don't know.
Here, this is now my version. Ready?
Yep.
The villagers are trying to rebuild. They're trying to rebuild something better. Feyre gets inspired. She tries to rebuild. Tamlin keeps holding her down. She kicks out Tamlin. Feyre's the new High Lord.
That would be lovely. I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Feyre of early Mist and Fury.
We both agree that she would have eventually gotten on her own 2 feet.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, that's fair. Fanfic time.
Somebody write that fanfic.
Rhys flies both Amren and Feyre to this little temple thingy. I just want to know, how did he do that? Did he have one of them on each arm? But then, like, how is he holding on to them? Are they trying to, like, both grab his neck? Is one on his back trying to avoid his wings? Is it one at a time? I don't know how this works.
I imagine he picks them up like little rag dolls, or like how Minerva just kind of like droops over your arms.
Yeah, he just has one on each arm and both of them are just drooping.
Yep, that's what I imagine.
I get he's strong, but I feel like that's a lot of strength.
I don't know what to tell you.
No, it's great.
They're both tiny, right?
Amren is. I like to think Feyre is like a solid 5'7".
When Feyre and Amren infiltrate the derelict temple to steal the Book of Breathings, Feyre asks why anyone would covet the book if they kept it hidden away for millennia. Amren responds, quote, wouldn't you want to lock away an object of terrible power so no one could use it for evil or for their own gain? Or perhaps they locked it away for their own bargaining chip if it ever became necessary. Now, how is this not a parallel to Feyre and Tamlin from the first part of Mist and Fury? This is exactly what Tamlin did. He locked away an object of terrible power that he didn't understand, aka Feyre. I think it's important, then, that Feyre is the one to open the doors to the book and not Amren, despite obvious technical reasons.
I love this so much. Also, keep in mind, thresholds. It's a big, big full circle moment here. And it's happening while Feyre is crossing a threshold. Frick yeah. as this entire section has been, there's continuing to be a lot of firsts happening. This is the first time Feyre is on a mission with someone, a physical mission that requires both partners evenly. It's not by chance that it's with Amren that she's doing this mission with, someone who is so powerful that those around her fear her. Feyre is on even footing with power and is working with someone, both of which are weapons. Even the way Amren speaks to Feyre is more equal. She tells Feyre to hurry the hell up. She gets panicked. She even encourages Feyre.
When Feyre and Amren finally get to the book calls Feyre a liar. Now, is this because it really knows Feyre isn't Tarquin? Or is it because Feyre has in some way sabotaged herself? I wonder if Feyre doubting herself causes the book to recognize Feyre for what she was not.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it always bothered me that Feyre got so far.
I did interpret it that her self-doubt was the thing that did it.
Okay.
It makes sense, you know? The only threat you have is yourself.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's like the Pink song, Don't Let Me Get Me. You're your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Do you know that song?
No.
Oh. It's from like early 2000s. Sorry.
I'm sure if you played it, I would know it.
Probably. Chapter 37 is some exciting bit of plot as Feyre and Amren fight to escape the trap of the derelict temple with the Book of Breathings in hand. There are only a few things we want to call out in this chapter that we think are worth discussing. During their escape, Feyre sees that Amren's, quote, outstretched hand wasn't for me, but for the door she'd forced back into the wall, holding it away until I could get out. While this may be unintentional on Sarah J. Maas's part, I think this is an interesting concept to discuss. A helping hand from someone close to you doesn't always look the way you expect, but that doesn't make it less helpful. Think of Rhys under the mountain, or Amren with the amulet for Feyre's visit to the prison. Maybe every member of the inner circle, and possibly others, have helped Feyre in a fashion she did not necessarily expect, understand, or think to want.
I love that point so much because whenever I read that, it almost seemed hurtful. Like in the moment, you're like, oh, she's reaching out for me. She's not reaching out for me. What the hell is she doing? And you realize, oh, she's actually saving you, which is so much more impactful than pulling Feyre to her, right? It's like she's busy holding the water and door. Yeah, helpful hands don't look the way that they normally do. And just remind yourself that, Amy, whenever I eat your food, I'm just trying to help you.
I appreciate that.
It's a helpful hand. Feyre and Amren almost drown and they're saved. We viewed water and bathing to be baptismal, but I think we can say here that it's really a rebirth. Feyre is different after this, stronger and a survivor once again. But she's also a fighter, not just someone who has a knack for surviving. When Feyre and Amren meet up with Rhys, Amren is pissed, and she is going off on him, calling him a bastard, and I love it. Although Rhys's eyes flick over to Feyre after being told they nearly drowned, Feyre chooses to believe that he didn't care because all he wanted was the book. Obviously he cared, but he also has to be smart and get the book and get out of there. So, get on board, Feyre.
I agree with you. I do think he cares. And I think actually he mentions that he messes up. He forgets that he has powers and relies solely on physicality to disarm guards or knock him out or kill him or whatever instead of using his Daemati powers to influence them. I think this is a secret moment of panic on Rhys's part, that he realized things were going south, maybe, and he can't get a hold of Feyre. And so he assumes the worst and he panics. And that's why he fucks up.
Okay, so like when he comes down, he's not like, what the, because he says like, what the hell happened to you guys? And he's super casual about it, which I always thought was weird that he was overly casual about it. Because like, obviously they're not okay.
Right.
It always felt weird. So it would make sense if he was in a total panic before this, sees them and is like, okay, gotta pull it together.
Yeah, it's like the pendulum swing of recovery.
I love that.
We then have this lovely moment where we see the kindness of Feyre's human heart and her treatment of the water wraith during the tithe come back to help the team. Even Amren remarks, quote, only an immortal with a mortal heart would have given one of those horrible beasts the money. Whatever luck you live by, girl, thank the cauldron for it. It's not insignificant that Amren, a being of contradictions, acknowledges the contradictions within Feyre and feels that those contradictions are a boon, something that has benefited them. I think Amren's recognition here gives Feyre permission to accept herself more than anyone else's recognition has ever before.
Feyre also gives Amren her hand to help her up, which Amren takes and then squeezes Feyre's hand. And then Feyre and Amren are instantly clean, again, a baptismal rebirth type of situation. This is also the second time that Amren has cleaned Feyre. It's the second time Amren gives Feyre decency and pardons her for whatever actions she just took. And I want to say here that Feyre reaching out her hand, Amren taking it, they're both laughing on the floor, hysterical, just like absolutely losing it. It's such a beautiful bonding moment that, again, Feyre's had these wonderful moments with each character, really bonding, except for more.
I thought about that too.
You're saying it too, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful moment. Just a simple squeeze of the hand. Both of them laughing on the floor.
Yeah. Like, oh, we just survived this really scary thing together. All you can do is laugh. And Moore's just looking at them like,
What's happening, guys?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why are you guys laughing? Why are they covered like that?
Give her like a Boston
I don't know what happened, but that's how Moore sounds like.
Got it.
Oh, Cassian.
Oh my
Gosh. Az, get over here. Let's go to Rita's.
Now it's New Yorker. Okay.
I don't know my accents. They just happen. They flow.
When it's revealed that the Book of Breathings is in an ancient language that Amren knows, Rhys's schemes have paid off, and we realize that not even Amren is immune from Rhys's plans and secrets. Maybe we should forgive Rhys because he didn't want to give false hope to Amren, so he keeps information from her about the language and the Book of Breathings. But does that make it okay?
I feel like he should have told her, wanting to get her hopes up or not. The fact is, Amren almost died for this book, and I think she should have known what she was getting into if she's almost going to die. But what I do know is that I'm not from the Night Court. I am not there. And I can't tell if I would thrive or not do well in this situation. You know what? I take it back. I probably wouldn't do well. I need you to tell me everything. Yeah. There is no detail that I don't want to know.
I know.
Damn. Back to the Spring Court I go.
Side note, a lot of random setup for Miriam and Draken in anticipation of Wing and Ruin happens in this scene. I'm not sure I love it or appreciate it, but I guess it had to happen. It just feels forced.
Yeah, it's a little forced. It's kind of like, oh, here's information that we need to put in because later on in future books it'll be important.
Right.
This is a good place.
Why not?
Breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumb time. In chapter 32, Feyre, in observing Amren at a meal in the summer court, thinks, quote, I wondered what, who she would eat while here. Varian seemed like a good guess. I laugh at all the Amren and Varian references in this arc, but this one is my favorite.
They're so cute together. I
really
love
cute.
them so much. I just want to know what happens there. Like, how do they get together? Who made the first move? Bullshit. We all know it was Amren.
100.
How did he give her the necklace? You know, there's a lot that's happening there.
Yep.
Also in chapter 32, quote, if Tamlin went to war to get me back, no, that wouldn't be an option. I'd written to him, told him to stay away. Feyre, darling, when has Tamlin ever listened to the words you said? And when can you stop jinxing everything?
Please stop jinxing yourself. Chapter 34, Feyre observes, quote, a necklace of rubies was splayed on a velvet pillow, each of them the size of a robin's egg. It would take a tremendous female to wear that necklace, to dominate the gems, and not the other way around. I think we should have seen it coming that Amren would end up with these.
Oh, of course. Such a sneaky thing.
It's great. Going back to the question we asked at the start of the episode, what character development does Feyre experience at the summer court, and is it transformative?
There is a lot of character development happening here, and it's a bunch of firsts. Feyre took a lot of first steps here in order to become the person that she is by the end of the book. And really, Feyre has accepted being a weapon now. And she may not like being deceitful. She may not like having to lie and do all the things that she needs to do, but she's accepted it, that this is part of life, that if she wants to be part of the greater good, if she wants to be the weapon that she knows she is, then she's got to do the things that she got to do.
I kind of want to go back to this question of who owns the weapon in answer to this. And I think Feyre realizes that though she's a weapon, she's also capable of being her own master.
Yeah.
And I think that is transformative. She owns her role, but she owns her autonomy in that role. I think, or is trying to. And I think that it is transformative because she's learning to not go with everybody else's whims.
And as much as we give Rhys crap for having it all be within his control and the parameters that he wants, he does want Feyre to have that autonomy and to be in control and to do all of that. Don't like his execution all the time, but, you know, he wants it and he's supporting it, and that's what's happening. She's getting her own 2 feet.
I think he wants the same outcome that Feyre wants. I think he just doesn't know how to assist her properly to getting there.
Yeah.
I think he maybe takes for granted how much Feyre is capable of doing on her own because she's been so broken recently that he is heavy-handed instead of trusting her.
I mean, and he has, as we discussed in this episode, he has a lot of his other issues as to why he does what he does. But Feyre wouldn't have made these amazing strides to her own healing if she was not in the right company.
Agreed. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of BookTok for BookTok. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we will be exploring chapters 38 through 41 in A Court of Mist and Fury.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo.
Or find us on TikTok and Instagram at the handle BookTalk4BookTalk.
Bye.
Bye.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.